I honestly don't even know where to start because I'm still kind of in shock even now, but I'll try to be straightforward. My name's Mike, and I was with my wife Lisa for about 10 years. We're not perfect, but I always thought we had a stable relationship. We had our fights like everyone does, but nothing out of the ordinary. I was deeply in love with her, or at least I thought I was. Lately, I'd started noticing little things that just didn't sit right. She'd be unusually distant, cancel plans at the last minute, and sometimes she'd get weirdly defensive if I asked where she'd been or who she'd been talking to. I thought maybe she was just stressed with work, or maybe she was tired. I never really pressed her because I figured whatever it was, she'd tell me when she was ready. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. One night I decided to do something I usually wouldn't: check her phone. I know, it's not exactly a shining moment of trust, but I was just desperate for some kind of proof. I slipped into her purse while she was in the shower and found a string of messages that made my stomach turn. Flirty, suggestive texts from someone named Jake. And not just that, they were explicit. I could see from the timestamps that this was happening behind my back, even as I was planning a surprise birthday party for my best friend, David. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. David's birthday was coming up, and I'd been planning this whole thing for weeks, getting a cake, decorating the basement wine cellar, inviting friends, trying to make it perfect. I had no idea my wife was out there swapping spit with her childhood best friend right under my nose. The messages weren't just friendly banter, they were downright filthy. And the worst part, she was calling him hot and sexy, even saying she wanted to do things she'd never done before. Reading that, while I was in the middle of setting everything up for his birthday, it just shattered me. I stayed up that night, staring at her phone in a daze, trying to process what I just found. The physical evidence wasn't just the texts, though. I remembered that night I heard her in the basement, laughing a little too loudly, and I thought she was just having fun with some friends. Turns out, she was with Jake. I found out later from security footage that I hadn't even known I had hidden cameras I'd installed around the house after I started sensing something was off. The cameras caught them in the act in the wine cellar while I was upstairs preparing the party. I saw her pressed against him, kissing and touching, completely oblivious to the fact that I was watching through the camera feed. The worst part, she lied when I confronted her. She looked me dead in the eyes and said she was just picking out a special wine for David's party, that I was overreacting, that I was imagining things. She told me Jake was just an old friend, that I was paranoid and jealous. That's when I realized how much she's been lying, how much she's been fooling me. That moment, seeing her with him, knowing she'd betrayed me on what was supposed to be a happy day for David, was like the ground opening beneath my feet. I felt so angry, so hurt, and honestly, I was numb. How could she do this to me? How could she lie so effortlessly? I trusted her with everything, and she had been out there in our own basement cheating with my best friend. It felt like my entire world was crashing down around me. After I saw what I saw on the camera, everything changed. I was frozen there, staring at the screen in disbelief. My hands were trembling, my head pounding. I couldn't process it all at once. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was in bed with Jake, right in my basement while I was upstairs, blind to everything. It wasn't just a mistake or a one-time thing. It was a betrayal that cut deep, and I knew I had to do something, something I could live with. I didn't sleep that night. I kept going over everything, the moments I missed, the signs I ignored. I replayed her words when I confronted her, her bullshit excuses about wine and old friends. She was so convincing, so bitchy and dismissive in her tone. She told me I was overthinking, that she loved me, that I was paranoid. But I knew better now. I knew. She'd been lying all along, sneaking around behind my back with Jake, who's been her best friend since childhood. That made it worse. It wasn't some random affair with a stranger. It was someone who knew everything about us, someone who was supposed to be my friend. In the quiet hours of that night, I started planning what to do. I knew I couldn't let her get away with this. I wanted to make her feel the same pain she'd caused me, but I also wanted to be smart about it. I decided I wouldn't lash out blindly or confront her without evidence. I needed her to admit it, face the reality of what she'd done. I made a decision. I was going to catch her in a lie, expose her for who she really was. The next day I acted like everything was normal, but inside I was boiling. I kept asking her questions, testing her, trying to get her to slip up. She was a bitch about it, a typical Lisa move. She'd throw shit back at me, call me paranoid, accuse me of mistrusting her. She tried to gaslight me, saying I was imagining things, that I was insecure. But I had the proof, and I wasn't going to let her turn the tables on me. I remembered the footage, the camera angles, the timestamps. I had her dead to rights. I didn't want a loud confrontation in front of the kids or the neighbors, so I waited for the right moment. I knew I'd have to be calm, calculated. I kept her close, baited her with questions about her whereabouts, her evening plans. And then I dropped the bomb. I told her I knew about Jake, about the texts, about the affair. I showed her the footage on my phone, the one I secretly recorded from the camera feed. Her eyes widened for a split second, but she quickly recovered, trying to spin some bullshit about how it was nothing, just a mistake, just a moment of weakness. She looked me right in the eye and lied again, trying to make me believe she didn't do anything wrong. That's when the real anger hit me. Not just anger, but a deep, burning rage. It was like a switch flipped inside me. I'd loved her, trusted her, given her everything, my time, my loyalty, my heart. And she'd spat all that back in my face. To see her lying so effortlessly, so bitchy and dismissive, made me realize I couldn't stay with her anymore. I had to decide what to do next, whether to forgive her, to try to work through it, or to cut ties completely. But right then, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her get away with this without paying the price. I had to make her see that I was done being the fool. The days that followed were a blur of anger, disbelief, and a sinking sense of betrayal. I couldn't look at Lisa the same way anymore. Every time I saw her bitchy smirk, I remembered the lies she'd told, the way she dismissed my feelings like they meant nothing. It's like I had been living in some nightmare, only waking up to a more brutal reality. My wife, my partner, the woman I loved, had been cheating on me with my best friend, Jake. Not just a quick fling. This had been going on for weeks, maybe longer, and the worst part was how she lied about it every step of the way. I started to think about how to handle this. Part of me wanted to storm into her and tear her apart, but I knew that wouldn't solve anything. I had to be strategic. I needed to have the upper hand, to really make her understand the damage she'd caused. I decided I'd set my trap, catch her off guard, and then confront her in a way that she couldn't deny or talk her way out of. I needed her to face what she'd done, not just to me but to our entire life together. I started digging into her phone more, looking for even the tiniest slip-up, but she was cautious now. She changed her passwords, deleted some messages, but I knew her pattern. I knew her habits. I kept a close eye on her. That's when I noticed she was planning some kind of weekend trip, claiming it was business, but I had my doubts. She kept sneaking around, hiding her phone, acting more bitchy and defensive than ever. Every little thing she did now felt like a calculated move, and it made me more determined to get to the truth. One night, I followed her after she left the house. She said she was going to meet her sister, but instead I trailed her to a hotel downtown. That's when I saw her enter with Jake. They weren't just talking, they were practically glued together. I managed to stake out the parking lot in my car, waiting until they came out about an hour later. When they did, I saw her kiss him goodbye, a long, intimate kiss that no sister or friend would ever share. My stomach churned. I felt like I was being punched repeatedly, but I stayed calm. I knew this was the moment I'd been waiting for. The next morning, I confronted her again. I told her I knew everything, showed her the hotel receipt I'd stolen from her purse, and played her voice messages I'd recorded of her and Jake talking. Her bitchy attitude shifted a little, but she still insisted she was innocent, that she'd only gone there to pick up some wine, that it was just a stupid, drunken mistake. I could see right through her lies. She was good at lying, that bitch. But I was done convincing her. I wanted her to see that I'd caught her, that she couldn't keep hiding behind her lies anymore. Her reaction was classic Lisa, defensive, bitchy, trying to turn the tables. She yelled at me, called me paranoid and insecure, accused me of spying on her because I didn't trust her. She even had the nerve to say that I was crazy for thinking she'd cheat with Jake, that I was overreacting. But I knew better. I knew her game now. She was just trying to manipulate me, to make me feel like I was the problem. The truth was, she was the one who had been lying, sneaking around, and betraying everything we built together. Honestly, I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. I loved her, or I thought I did, but now I wondered if I'd ever really known her at all. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd trusted with everything, she was gone, replaced by someone cold, bitchy, and selfish enough to cheat on her husband with her childhood buddy. I kept telling myself I had to stay strong, to do what's right for me, even if that meant ending it all. I didn't want to be the guy she used and discarded anymore. I was done with the lies, the fake smiles, the betrayal. Now, I just had to figure out what my next move would be and how to pick up the pieces of what was left of my life. After that confrontation, everything felt different. I was walking around like a ghost, replaying her words, her lies, her bitchy smirks. The betrayal cut so deep I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I'd put so much into our marriage, years of shared memories, plans for the future, and she threw it all away for some pathetic affair with Jake. It was like she'd spat in my face and then dared me to do something about it. I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't keep living in this lie, this nightmare. Every time I looked at her, I saw the woman who had lied to me, who had been screwing my best friend behind my back. I couldn't stay married to someone so selfish, so contemptuous. But I also didn't want to just walk away without making her suffer a little. Call it revenge, call it justice. I needed her to understand what she'd done, how much she'd hurt me, and how she'd lost everything because of her own bitchy attitude and her affair. So, I started planning my next move. I knew I couldn't just jump into a divorce right away. I needed proof. I needed her to slip up again to really understand that I was serious. I began taking mental notes of every little thing, every lie, every bitchy comment. I made sure to keep my phone recording when I could, just in case I needed more evidence later. The whole time she kept throwing fits, calling me paranoid or insecure, trying to make me believe I was overreacting. But I was. I knew what I saw, I knew what I had in my hands. The more I watched her, the more I realized how manipulative she was. She started acting even bitchier around the house, snapping at me over small things, throwing tantrums when I tried to talk about the situation. She was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself. But I stayed firm. I wasn't going to let her turn this around on me. Deep down, I knew she was terrified she was going to lose everything, and that made me feel a little better, like I was finally in control. One evening, she left the house again. This time, I followed her secretly. She was headed back to that hotel, no surprise there. I parked nearby and watched her sneak in with Jake just like I'd seen before. Only this time, I caught her going into the room with her phone in her hand, texting him again. I managed to record her doing it, even as she thought she was alone. I felt a strange mixture of rage and sadness watching her. She was so bitchy, so dismissive, like I was just some obstacle in her perfect little life. I was heartbroken but also furious. That night I gathered all the evidence, screenshots, videos, messages. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some paranoid husband who jumped to conclusions. I was done being the nice guy. I was ready to blow this wide open. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time I'd do it with everything laid out in front of her. I wanted her to see what she'd destroyed, our marriage, my trust, everything I'd believed in. The next morning I woke up early, prepared everything I needed. I knew it was time for the final blow. I called her into the living room, told her I had something important to show her. I played her all the videos, the texts, the receipts. Her bitchy attitude only got worse. She started screaming, denying everything, calling me crazy, accusing me of spying on her because I was insecure. That's when I finally saw the true face of the woman I married, the bitchy, manipulative, selfish woman who had been cheating with my best friend. I was done. I told her she could pack her things, that I wanted her gone. I didn't want her in my life anymore. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd caused me, and I was going to make sure she understood that. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, but I saw the relief in her eyes too, relief that she'd gotten away with it for so long. I knew I'd lost a lot, but I also knew I was finally free. She was a bitch, but I'd be okay without her. I'd learned a hard lesson. Never trust someone who lies and manipulates like she did. And from now on, I'd be more cautious, more guarded. Because betrayal like this doesn't just hurt, it changes everything. And I was never going to let someone do that to me again. After she packed her bags and finally left, I was left in the silence of the house that once felt like a home. The place that had held so many memories now seemed hollow, filled with echoes of her bitchy attitude, her lies, and her betrayal. Honestly, I felt emptier than I ever thought I could. The rage had subsided a little, replaced by an overwhelming sense of loss. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, so trusting, to believe her words when she kept lying to my face. That first night alone was brutal. I couldn't sleep, kept replaying everything. The moments she'd been with Jake, her lies, her smirks, that cold look in her eyes when she thought she was fooling me. It was like my mind refused to accept that the woman I loved had been cheating on me with my best friend all along. It hurt worse than I can even describe. I felt betrayed, angry, and somehow deeply sad. I kept wondering if I'd ever be able to trust again or if I'd carry this pain with me forever. But even in the middle of all that pain, I knew I'd done the right thing. I'd gathered enough proof to make her see the truth, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I'd rather be alone than stuck with a woman who was so bitchy and selfish she'd cheat on her husband with her childhood best friend. That realization was the only thing that kept me going through those dark hours. I had to look out for myself now. I had to rebuild what was left of my life, step by step, day by day. Over the next few weeks, I focused on clearing my head. I started seeing a therapist, not because I thought I was crazy, but because I needed help processing everything. Talking things out helped me put some order to the chaos in my mind. I also decided to cut all contact with Lisa. I blocked her on social media, changed my phone number, and made sure she had no way to manipulate or guilt-trip me again. The more distance I put between us, the better I felt. I realized that I needed to prioritize myself now, my happiness, my peace, and my sanity. Meanwhile, I also began cleaning out the house, getting rid of her things, the stuff that reminded me of the betrayal. It was painful, but it felt like I was reclaiming my space, my life. I'd been carrying too much emotional baggage, and I knew I couldn't move on until I let go of it. The house slowly became my sanctuary again, my place to breathe, to heal, and to figure out what my next steps would be. I won't lie, there were days when I felt hopeless, days when I wondered if I'd ever feel normal again. But I also knew that I deserved better than someone who would betray me like that, to lie, to cheat, to be so bitchy and selfish. I learned that trust isn't something you give blindly, it's something you earn, and I've been stupid enough to give her my trust without demanding honesty. That's the hard lesson I took from all this. Never ignore the red flags, never assume someone is faithful just because they seem perfect on the surface. In the end, I started rebuilding myself. I began to focus on the things I'd neglected, my job, my hobbies, and most importantly, my own happiness. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. I will never again let someone treat me like I'm an idiot for trusting them. I learned to stand up for myself, to see the bitchy side of people when they show it. And I know now that I'm better off without her. Some betrayals cut so deep you never forget, but I'm determined to move forward stronger, wiser, and more cautious. Because if there's one thing I know for sure, it's that I deserve someone who won't cheat on me, lie to my face, and make me feel like a fool. Looking back, I realized that this whole ordeal changed me in ways I never expected. I used to believe that love, trust, and loyalty were the foundation of any relationship. Now I see that sometimes people are just assholes who will betray you in the worst ways possible, and you have to be ready to cut them out of your life without hesitation. That bitchy, selfish side of Lisa finally revealed itself in the cruelest way. She cheated, lied, and dismissively tried to gaslight me, all while pretending to be perfect. I suppose I was naive to think she was different, but I guess I needed to learn that trusting blindly only leaves you vulnerable. The thing is, I've come out of this stronger. Yeah, it hurt like hell, but I learned to listen to my gut and recognize the red flags before they turn into full-blown betrayals. I've also realized that I don't need someone like Lisa in my life, especially if she's capable of such selfishness and bitchiness. I deserve someone who respects me, who values honesty, and who treats me like I matter. That's what keeps me going now. The hope that somewhere out there I'll find a woman who truly cares, who's loyal and kind, and who won't cheat behind my back or lie to my face. I also learned to forgive myself for not seeing the signs earlier. No one's perfect, and sometimes love blinds us to the truth. But what matters is that I'm finally free from the toxic cycle of betrayal. I've let go of the anger, the sadness, and the heartbreak. Now, I focus on rebuilding my life piece by piece. I've started working out again, reconnecting with friends, and doing things that make me happy. Things I neglected while I was caught up in trying to fix a relationship that was already broken. Most importantly, I've come to accept that some people, like Lisa, are bitchy, selfish, and manipulative. They lie their way out of responsibility and they hurt the ones who trust them the most. I won't be that guy anymore. I won't tolerate being played or lied to. I've learned that standing up for myself, even when it's hard, is the only way to stay sane. So here's what I want to leave anyone reading this. Trust your instincts. If someone shows you a bitchy, manipulative side, no matter how much you love them, pay attention. Because eventually that side will come out when they think they can get away with it, and it might be too late to fix what's broken. Protect yourself, set boundaries, and don't be afraid to walk away if you're getting hurt. Love isn't supposed to feel like this, betrayed, used, and stupid. It's supposed to make you feel safe and valued, not like an idiot. In the end, I guess I'm grateful for what happened, because it taught me a hard lesson about trust, about red flags, and about valuing myself enough to walk away from something toxic. I don't regret the pain I've gone through because it brought me here, stronger, wiser, and finally ready to move on. And if anyone out there is going through something similar, I'll just say this: don't ignore the signs. Protect your heart, trust yourself, and never let anyone treat you like you're nothing, because you deserve better.